Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Muskegon Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, September 12th, 2024. First of all, I'd like to apologize that we had to delay the meeting, but we'll be back on track now. And so let's begin and move along with the roll call, please.
All right, Commissioners Johnson, Sauron,
Here.
Willette Leroy,
Here.
Seifert, Keener, Mazay,
Here.
Montgomery Keys, Blake,
Here.
and Simmons.
Here.
Great. First of all, we'll move for the approval of the minutes of the meeting for August 15, 2024.
So moved.
Motion and support to approve the minutes of the meeting of August 15, 2024. Any discussion on that item? All's in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we'll move into the public hearings, and how we'll handle the public hearings is we'll have the staff present the case and give a staff report, and after that, commissioners have an opportunity to ask questions of staff. After that, we'll hear from the petitioner for the case, and then after they're done with that, then we'll have questions from the Planning Commission, and after that, we'll close the public hearing, we'll open the public hearing and take questions or comments from the audience, both live and and then after that, we'll close the public hearing and take action on the issue. So with that, let's move on to item number A.
This is hearing case 2024-23, which is a request for a special use permit to expand a non-conforming structure no more than 30% at 3256 Wilcox. Property zoned R1. It's a double lot, pretty close to actually a triple lot. It does have some non-conforming structures on it. The two garages and the shed are technically in the front yard. They're in front of the principal structure. Also, you are only allowed a garage and a shed, not two garages, but they are considered legally non-conforming. The applicant would like to combine the two garages to make it into one, which actually would be going towards conformance. So staff is in favor of this request. It would still meet all of the requirements of the zoning ordinance. It would still be under the maximum size requirements, and they are a little bit different in height, but they would both be brought up to the same size as the taller one, which is within the 14-foot height limit, and that's measured from the midway point of the peak. So these are non-conforming structures. You're allowed to increase them up to 30% with the issuance of a special use permit. This would be well under that 30%, and we sent out notice to everybody within 300 feet of the property, and we have not heard any comments from the public.
Okay. Any questions for Mike? If not, is a applicant here?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir. Would you like to address the Planning Commission? Tell us what you'd like to do.
Well, basically, it's two garages. Both garages are only 20 foot deep. The smaller garage, I was going to actually extend 2 foot out the back, so the regular size automobile right now can actually hold over it. And then there's a space between the two garages about 4 or 5 feet. It would just become one single structure. The idea, one of them was, I know that it's out of conformance when going to one garage and one shed would bring you more toward your zoning. I can't really do anything about the front placement of the wall. It's farther out in the front of the house.
I'm sorry, would you, that would probably be better. Would you, sorry, would you state your name for the record too?
Sure, Matthew Cortez, 3256 Wilcox.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Just that the square one is really falling apart. It is quite old. The foundation looks good. I think it was moved onto the lot at some point from some other place in the city. Looks like an old shanty, so.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Cortez?
Just a quick question. You did intend to keep the shed then?
Yeah, that's my wife's she shed. I like to sleep in my bed, so I will keep that intact for her. That's actually in really good shape too.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thanks.
So this is the time for the public hearing. Is anyone in the audience like to address this issue? Please come forward and state your name for the record. Okay, if not, then we'll move to the television audience. And if you'd like to address this issue, please call area code 231-724-6721 and state your name for a record, and you have 3 minutes to address this issue.
I consider doing the site plan review next rather than the other public hearing since those are staff initiated.
Yeah, is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay. We good, Sarah?
No problem.
Okay, if there aren't any calls, then I take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Somebody? Joe, I'm
Moved
sorry.
and second.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have a motion, second to close the public hearing. Any discussion on that matter? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carried. Now I'll take a motion on the subject matter.
I move that the request for a special use permit.
fire drill, fire alarm. So, back to the business at hand for the special use permit for 3256 Wilcox. As we were interrupted, we had a motion to approve the request, and I'm looking for a support.
I support.
Okay, so we have a motion of support for approval of to expand the non-conforming structure to no more than 30%, combining the two garages. Any discussion on that motion? All, roll call, please.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Ms. Abe,
Yes.
Willette Leroy,
Yes.
Bowron,
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. And now we're going to,
Thanks, you're all set.
yeah. So if the commissioners don't mind, we'd like to move to the site plan approval for a new building on Old Top Road, if you don't mind. So with that then, Mike, will you give us a
Sure.
staff report?
This is case 2024-26. It's a request for a site plan review for a new building at 2675 Olthoff Street. This is part of the portion of the former Muskegon County Correctional Facility that the city owns. We're working with this industrial company to develop a new 195,000 square foot building. We included two different copies of the site plan. The revised one shows some corrections that the engineering department was asking for, as for better safety for turning in and out of the facility around the curve of the new street. They were able to accommodate that, so they're all set there. There's still a few things they're working towards, but we feel that they're pretty standard to approve with conditions that staff can approve, such as the landscaping plan. It also looks like there's a pretty steep slope in the rear, which won't affect the building placement, but they may be required to put in a retaining wall, and the fire department is still looking at the fire hydrants, which may be required, but usually that's handled on the building permit side anyways. So staff would request that this be is approved with conditions. We have the conditions listed that these items will be addressed on a revised site plan and signed off by staff.
And Mike, all of these things, all these 4 items are things that get routinely approved by the staff anyways, either the fire department or these
are
or yourself.
these are all pretty routine, and we've definitely approved a lot of site plans in the past with these types of conditions.
Okay. Any questions for Mike? No? The applicant here, would you like to address the planning commission? Please state your name for the record, please.
Good afternoon. My
Who you
name,
represent?
my name is Justin Longstreth with Moore and Brugink Engineers, civil engineer that prepared the site plans that are in front of you this afternoon. I do have representatives from the development team and general contractor. If the commission has questions that I can't answer, I might defer. But in general, I feel like this is a fairly straightforward project for us. It's a good sized building, almost 200,000 square feet, light industrial use. We have had several conversations with city staff. So I think we're very comfortable with the conditions that are out there and being able to resolve those. But if there's any specific questions, I would gladly answer those. Otherwise, I may defer to teammates.
Are there any topography issues that create challenges for you there?
There are not. The one question I think that we have as far as the grading and the one on 2 slopes that was mentioned is on our south property line. If you could maybe scroll down so we could take a look at that. You see where our driveway is and how it loops around the south side of the building. It doesn't leave us a lot of space between us and the neighboring property. And there is some slope there, but I think that either through retaining wall or landscape boulders, or maybe even reaching out to the neighbor next door and obtaining a grading easement, we'll be able to satisfy that. Other than that one area, everything else on site's pretty straightforward.
And on that area, the pavement that goes around there, that's for fire access?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell us?
No, I think that's it. Other than if there's any questions, I'll answer.
Any questions?
Just
For the-
generally,
yeah, go ahead.
I understand that you're still going to submit a landscaping plan, but there is a large chunk of kind of forested land at the south end of the property. It looks like you'll be removing some of that yet in order to facilitate this plan. Do you intend to kind of have some coverage? You're going to have a lot of rooftop and parking lot when this is all done.
Yep, we actually have a draft landscape plan done right now. Had conversations with Mike even today about that to fine tune it, but yes, we are planting a pretty significant amount of trees back along the road frontage and also interior to the site. I'm trying to remember here, and I may just pull up my notes on the. I don't recall. I think this site may have been cleared completely, so the tree line that you're referencing, I think, is on the property line to the south of us. And I'm not sure that there's many existing trees actually on this site in specific.
I'm just looking at the Google map.
Yeah,
As it
so
is now.
the property to the south of us absolutely has a lot of trees. This one has been cleared, but we are planting a fairly significant amount back as part of our landscape plan.
Okay. Did that answer your question? Are you good? Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Familiar with the property.
Yeah, I bet you are. So this is not a public hearing, so we can take action on this issue. So I'll entertain a motion on this subject matter. Yes, sir.
Yes, I move that the site plan for a new building at 2675 Old Toff Street be approved with the following conditions. The fire marshal approves the fire hydrant locations. A stormwater permit is obtained from the engineering department. A retaining wall or other slope stabilization method is approved by the engineering department, and a landscaping plan is approved by the planning department.
Second.
Thank you. Motion support to approve the request with the 4 conditions. Any discussion on this matter? Roll call, please.
Commissioners Gowron,
Yes.
Willett LaRoy,
Yes.
Ms. Abe,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
and Simmons.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Is there something more you wanted to?
I'm Doug Pullen on behalf of the developer. I just have a question in response to the motion and Mr. Gowron's condition on that slope. If we can get a grading easement from the neighbor to the south, it looks like Allied Waste owns that property, would that satisfy that
Yes,
condition?
it would.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think as I understand, what we're looking for is either a retaining wall or a slope stabilization, however you can accommodate that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Say one last parting thing.
Sure. Could you, could you give your name
Yeah,
for the record, please?
Steve Wilson, from Blue Water, one of the partners in this building. I'm also a planning commissioner, in a beach town south of here. And, just wanted, a lot of times the planner and staff kind of get beat up on in public-private, negotiations. I just want to tell you how wonderful an experience we had with Jake and Jocelyn and his team. We obviously have a high bar to meet. It's a real pleasure to see, a city staff team like that work. It doesn't always go that smooth. Where we're from.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're very glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jake will pay you on the way out. Thank you. Good luck. All right. So next item is case number 2024-24.
Yeah, I actually think it might be a better idea to do 25 first, so we can talk a little bit more about the ordinance and decide if we want to approve it, and then go to the definition.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that when I was writing the staff report. so
Kind of
sorry
makes
about
sense.
that.
Okay, so we'll go to Ken. If the commissioners are okay with that, we'll move to case number 25.
Sure. Okay, so this is hearing case 2024-25. Staff initiated request to amend Article 20, Sections 1100 and 1300 to allow cat cafes as a special use permitted in the form-based code Downtown Form-Based Code, Main Street Form-Based Code, Neighborhood Core, the Lakeside Form-Based Code, Lakeside Commercial, Lakeside Form-Based Code, Mixed Residential, and B2 and B4 districts. We have been getting quite a few requests lately for cat cafes, which I was not very familiar with. Sarah's been taking a lot of the calls. She did some research. You may have saw the link we provided. There's quite a few of them around the state. We don't have a definition for it, and we can't really allow them because of our kennel definition, which is anything over 4 cats, I believe. So you'd be breaking that. So this would give an avenue for a cafe to allow to have cats.
Because these cats would stay there.
Yes.
Right? So,
Yeah.
okay.
And we looked at it and we thought, well, maybe other people would like other pets, maybe lizards or dogs, and we wanted to be inclusive of that, but the more we thought about it, the more trickier it got, and it's pretty easy to leave a cat alone overnight, but dogs are a different story, so we probably won't be on the cutting edge of pet cafes, but maybe we can catch up on the cat cafe side.
So okay, so you've had some requests or people contacting you. What's the staff's take on this?
I think it's a good idea. Sarah can share her opinions. I think she did most of the research. They seem to be thriving businesses, and it's basically you grab a cup of coffee and there's therapeutic cats to pet, and usually leads to adoptions, I guess. We would limit it to, I'm not sure where the 62 square foot, there's probably some rationale behind that, but I also capped it at 15, so there's maybe not too many in one specific place, but those could always be adjusted if need be.
You mentioned a little bit about why not other pets or animals. Can you talk a little more about that? Specifically, I think dogs would
Yeah.
be probably a more likely possibility in
So-
addition to cats.
I think it's already happening to some extent when there's an adoption event. I think some restaurants or cafes may be bringing dogs in for the day, and I don't think that breaks the ordinance. But they're not housing them overnight.
No.
So we haven't gotten any requests to do that, and I think it'd be a lot trickier, and we would need a lot more research on how that would work. And cats, this is written so that they have to be indoor cats. There's no outdoor, and they'd have to be in a carrier when they come and go. So cats are pretty quiet, if you're in a suite next door. So
Well, there's a lot of restaurants that have outdoor seating that allow dogs to come, and I haven't heard of any.
yeah, we started thinking
Issues
about
like
that, and again, I don't think they're breaking any ordinance because they're not housing them. It's not a kennel.
So my other question, and I don't want to occupy all the time, but can you give me a little sense of? I'm having trouble understanding exactly where these locations are. Could you give me some
Yes.
examples?
It's
there's a
pretty
whole bunch
much they're pretty much any commercial district other than a B1, and B1s you would find mostly in the middle of a neighborhood. So this is our B2, our B4. We don't have B3 anymore. That's been replaced with form-based code. So our downtown, the B2 districts, B4, which are your standard commercial districts, and the lakeside form-based code.
So what about like Getty Street or
Yep.
Marquette?
Yep. And
or
we did
Apple?
want it. We gave some consideration whether we wanted this as a use by right or a special use permit. We think it's prudent to keep it as a special use permit. That way, there's some regulations around it. We could add extra conditions to it if somebody within 300 feet got a notice and had some ideas of why it wouldn't work there, or some extra limitations should be put on it. And also, if there is a problem, then it could potentially be revoked.
I do like the fact that it's going to be done under a special use permit. So then there can be some controls added and it can be monitored.
Yeah. I'm not sure if Sarah has anything else to add to. She did some research.
So the original request came from a nonprofit that works with individuals and tries to get them into the work field. They wanted to open a coffee shop and have therapeutic cats in the shop at all times for people who came in and wanted to grab a coffee, and the cats were there for therapeutic reasons. I went through a bunch of other municipalities that do allow this. The 62 square feet was a number I got from another special use permit application that a city was using for cat cafes. Like Mike said, I don't know where it came from or who decided that number, but we can always change that if we wanted to. But also we have quite a few shelters in the area that I know it'd be an advantage for them to have a place where they can hold an event like that too. So, I mean, yeah, wine bars and coffee shops, and they're
Puppy
becoming,
yoga?
yeah, they're
Puppy
becoming
yoga is a
very,
good one?
Yeah, go, yeah,
very
maybe next
popular.
time.
I think the idea with it being cat cafe is that cats can self-sustain overnight, whereas dogs, like, would have to go outside and
Yeah.
people would have to be there with them.
So would stray cats be allowed? Or are you only getting the cats from like
I would think they would have to be up to date on shots and
Yeah.
like for them to be mingling with
Okay.
the public.
Yep.
Cause you can get scratched and get
yeah.
tetanus. Or,
Yeah, it would be up to the
That's
business
what I
owner,
do.
but it would be in their best interest to make sure they're
Yeah.
in the right shape to be there.
Yeah, so having general discussion.
Keep going.
This crosses into food and beverage, et cetera. Do we have any indication of how the health department and licensing comes in under this?
So there's been a mix from what I've seen in the municipalities in Michigan that have done this. There was a case in Livingston County, I believe, that he got approved, but then the county health department essentially said they weren't going to give him a permit. So he put Keurig machines in his and the books, like kind of like a bookstore, and he just chose to do it that way. There are others who've gotten approved. I believe there's one in Kent County that did get approval from the health department.
Right.
So I think it's a county to county basis too. So
Because that would be one additional
yeah,
hurdle they would have to go
Yeah.
through.
Yes.
can we put that into like if we approve it that they have to first get prerequisites done to be approved through public health first?
I don't know if that's necessary, because they do have to have a health permit in order to serve food. And one of the items, in the ordinance is that the cats and the food food preparation area has to be separate. Commissioner Leroy.
Sorry, whatever. Nobody gets it right. So yeah, I would. Well, the idea I think is interesting and fun and plays to a lot of. I think a lot of young people would enjoy it. I think that we need to look to things that young people would enjoy, and I think there's a good population that would enjoy this. Cats do require specific care, and so they also involve a lot of allergies for a lot of people. So I would personally suggest that we would require any instances of this have a sign outside the establishment, like making it very clear that there are live cats inside, so people know that, as well as requiring, however we can, that there is documentation that all the cats are fixed, up to date on medical requirements, and any licensing that we require. Because if these cats get out, somebody lets them out, then they become, a breeding issue in the community, and we need to, I would go so far as to say microchipped as well. I think we're supporting the shelters and things in that way, but we're just kind of letting these things run free if we don't
You
do
may
that.
want to suggest an amendment during any motion so that we know how to word it.
Okay.
Okay. And then the health department would handle the situation regarding where litter boxes would be maintained.
I'm
You think they would take care of that
sure
part?
the health department's going to be requiring a lot of things. Yes.
Is there any other comments before I guess I'm not real excited about putting more requirements on the owners of these cats any more so than any other owners of cats, in terms of whether they have to be spayed or neutered or the vaccinations and those kinds of things. That's my point of view, I guess.
Well, then oftentimes they're for adoption, so the people adopting them may,
Right, and usually in an adoption case, then the prospective owner pays for those things, usually in advance of taking possession of the animal. And I just think that we leave it up to them. That's my point of view. So any other questions or comments about this item? This is a subject, Mike, did you have anything else you wanted to say, or Sarah?
Nope.
Okay. So this is a time for a public hearing. There's nobody in the audience here. So we'll go to the viewing public. If you'd like to address this issue, please call 231-724-6721 and give your comments on this item. We're good, Sarah? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
A motion,
Support.
support to close the public hearing? Any discussion on that? All's in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So now I'll entertain a motion on the subject matter. Mr. Gowan, Commissioner Gowan.
I would move to move forward with the proposed special use permit regulations as follows. Cat cafes under the following conditions. Keeping of domestic animals shall be consistent with the provisions of Article 20, noise, and Article 20, nuisance littering of the city's code and ordinances. This will be limited to cats, being felines only. The capacity of the establishment must provide 62 square feet per one cat and no more than 15 on site at any one time. The cat shall always be kept separate from food preparation areas. The boarding of cats shall take place entirely indoors. Any cats leaving the establishment must be in a carrier, and a sign indicating a 24-hour emergency phone number shall be kept current and posted on the site in a place clearly visible from the exterior.
A motion, do I have support?
Support.
Support. I have a motion and support for the item. Any discussion on the item?
I just want to add a little bit to some of my thoughts on adding documentation. I understand the idea of having like an adoption event where you might have a lot of cats on site one day is not really kenneling and really, I think we agree, wouldn't require this ordinance. So if we're looking at this literally as a place of business, a place where these cats live, I think that we do have the burden of treating them a little differently than somebody having one or two private cats. My next door neighbor can't have 16 cats. So I do think that there's a requirement, and if these cats are taken care of medically, spayed, neutered, they may be more adoptable in that way, and then people could pay those services at the end. So I think I'm going to stick with that suggestion.
Reasonable.
So, okay. Any other comments on this item? Roll call, please.
Commissioners Gauron,
Yes?
Willett Leroy,
Were we adding anything, or were we going motion as is? So
The motion was as
that
is.
Okay, so I'm.
Oh.
How can I say? Vote no
Well, you
and
didn't
suggest-
make a motion to amend.
I realize.
You made a comment.
Okay. No.
All right. Let's-
Mazade,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
and Simmons.
Yes.
Did you get everybody's vote? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I missed. Okay. All right. Motion passes?
Yes, it'll go to the city commission for
All right.
final approval. So there's still a chance things could be added.
All right. So we're going to move back to case number 2024-24.
Yes, this is a stash initiated request to amend Article 2, the definitions of the zoning ordinance to create a definition for cat cafe. So now we need the definition, and the proposed definition is a restaurant or cafe which also houses adoptable or therapeutic cats for clientele to interact with, and which may incorporate cat adoption services into addition of the restaurant services.
Any questions for Mike or comments? Okay, then this is the time for a public hearing. There are not any members of the public in the audience, so we'll go to the viewing audience. If you'd like to address this issue, please call 231-724-6721. You can make comments on this item. No phone calls. I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So motion
Support.
and support to close the public hearing. Any discussion on that motion? All's in favor say aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carried. So now I'll entertain a motion on the subject matter. Commissioner Gowan.
Yes, I would move that we present the proposed definition, cat cafe. A restaurant or cafe which also houses adoptable or therapeutic cats for clientele to interact with, and which may incorporate cat adoption services in addition to the restaurant services.
The motion, do I have support?
Support.
Support. Motion is support to approve the proposed definition for cat cafes. Any discussion on that motion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Zade,
Yes.
Willette Leroy,
Yes.
and Gower.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right. So is that it?
That is it. I just had a couple updates for
Yeah,
everybody.
that'd be great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Mike.
I just want to remind everybody about our special planning commission meeting on Thursday, the 26th. That'll be a very important one. I think we're going to be close on a quorum too, though. So please let us know if you can or can't make it. It'll be on the short-term rental ordinance. We've been reporting to the city commission on that, and we went to work session this month and informed them that we were going to be bringing it to planning commission and then for a vote to them in October. So we'll try to get that ordinance out to you early next week, so you have a lot of time to look at it. We pretty much have it proposed ordinance written already.
So I know there's been a lot of discussion on that item, and what I've read is that city managers made a presentation, and it sounds like it's been massaged a little bit. What are you looking for from the planning commission?
Well, what we're proposing is that we're going to create an overlay district where they are allowed. And it's going to be in residential zones, and it'll be broken up into 15 different districts, and they're going to match basically the census tract districts, because it's very important to the city commission that it's equal and equitable throughout the entire city. So we'll put a cap on each district so that every district has the same percentage of housing units that can have an STR, and we're looking at allowing either 3 to 4% of that being the cap for that neighborhood. And what that would mean is pretty much one neighborhood, Beechwood Bluffton, would be over theirs by 30 to 40 units and may have to attrition some over time. Lakeside is pretty close depending on where that number is, whether it be a little over or a little under. And it looks like the other neighborhoods could add quite a few to get to that percentage. There's also some other requirements like in there that you cannot have more than 2 short-term rentals abut your property, so you're not just surrounded by them all. And we would also take out the Downtown Development Authority district and the boundaries of the Lakeside bid, because those are more
Side
the
bid?
Lakeside bid. So basically, Lakeside Business Association district area, because those are more commercial areas where we would invite hotel type of uses, anyways.
Well, I guess my question, and maybe I didn't phrase it right, Planning Commission really hasn't been involved up until this point.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing,
Mhm.
but so what are you looking for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation with respect to the
Yes.
ordinance, and then it would go to the city commission?
Correct.
Similar to what?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we discussed various forms of how we would bring this ordinance and whether it would be in the city code of ordinance and it may not even go to the planning commission that way. But ultimately, we decided that the overlay district would be the strongest tool we could use, which does involve the planning commission. So I know we haven't talked about it much here,
Yeah,
but
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that it's gotten some play in the press.
Mhm. Yes.
Other comments about it? Commissioner Gowan?
Mike, prior to the 26th, if you could go to the other staff who have been, designing this, if we could get beforehand the research or any linked documentation for examples I know they've been looking at, or some of the rationale, because I know they've been looking at other communities and
Yeah, we've taken a look at a couple different communities and borrowed some ideas from them. Ultimately, they're not really cookie cutter
Right.
ordinances. You can't really place them everywhere. Every city's a little different on how they want to address these. So we took some ideas and kind of meshed some from different cities. And
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree. I just is there a best practices that's
No.
out there? Really, no.
no, like for instance, I believe Holland. I may be getting them confused now, but there's 2 different ones I've been looking at. Spring Lake does one where they cap them, but it's only 25 throughout the entire city, something like that. But they only allow them in certain districts, so it's really limited to where you could go. Holland, I believe, has something similar to that as well. I had talked to them because I had some questions. Well, what if there's some licenses left? Do you have people that are like camping out Sunday night, And they said they didn't really go through that, although it cut it close. So, when the word got out that there were some licenses available, I think they were all spoken for by the end of that day. But luckily, there was no frenzy towards City Hall. So, those are some of the things that we're looking at. How is that going to happen, and what's going to happen when there's a license available? We really haven't determined what the process is for that.
But if there is anything, as far as what has been being studied, and even a blurb, just for consideration beforehand, to be, better informed for, questions. And
Sure.
discussion.
Well, with our city and the complaints we've heard, and a lot of people just speaking on the topic, there's a lot of concern where they are all located, which is the
Right.
west side of the city. So, our thought was a cap is the best way to address that, but we should not put a cap on the properties over on the east side because it's not a problem over there. So we want to have them be able to have the chance to rent out their properties, for income, and they'll have some interest there, but also to protect them. So if too much interest goes over there, they also do have a cap, but it's going to be a while before they hit that cap.
Right. 'Cause I know there are some Airbnbs even along Apple Avenue across from Angel School.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, they're scattered around. We have that data, so we'll show that at the meeting.
and I know that there's Airbnbs that aren't registered.
Yeah, we're looking at ways
And
to
in
tackle
the
that.
neighborhood,
Yeah, and then they got
There's-
a new site, Verbo is a new one too. That's starting
Yep.
to come into.
Yep.
So not so much Airbnb now. They got a new competitor. So
Right.
Yeah, and this ordinance will tackle all of those.
Right.
So Yep.
And then if we get as bad as Madrid or Paris, we'll just ban them altogether.
Interesting.
This would be a good way to prevent it from getting to that point.
Any other questions or comments from Mike on this? I don't know that it's something that is within our purview, but I would be interested in knowing as we get ready for the meeting, the legal aspect of capping or preventing some people and not others. I'm guessing you've had some legal.
Well, the
review.
ordinance does cap every district, and at the same percentage. So, but there'll be different numbers. So I guess.
But I mean, it's yeah. I mean, my concern, and it probably isn't a concern of the planning commission necessarily, is how do you say no to one and not the other, and maybe it gets to the whole issue of whether you can cap or not.
Oh, yeah. I think any city that passes these may face challenges.
Yeah, that's and
So I'll try to get a legal recommendation of what.
I mean, I'm guessing that you're getting some legal review or something.
Yeah,
as
we
you-
are.
I mean, I'm
yeah,
sure
and
you're
I
not-
just sent it over for review anyway, so I guess I'll have them prepare a paragraph at least of what they think about the whole capping aspect.
Just a
Yes.
extra thought. Just as kind of determining what we determine is that it's a new iteration of an old version of things. So there have always been bed and breakfasts, for example, and I think people's frustration in this iteration is that they're often not owner occupied. They're often just a house that people rent. So
Yeah, and that
in the past we did that though
Yeah.
by was it certain what was our bed and breakfast previous to Airbnbs? Was it only in particular districts? Was it a cap? Was there
Yeah,
just
we
never a
actually
problem?
probably should look at that. I know they're maybe not as popular as they used to be, but they're really limited to where they can be in Muskegon. Very limited. But on house stay, or how do you say that? When you're staying with somebody,
When you're hosted, like in the
a hosted stay.
yeah,
Those would not count
hostels.
those are different.
towards the cap. So this would only be for unhosted stays.
Yeah. Commissioner.
And the majority of the litigations that I've seen in the state of Michigan have been a result of a township or a town's outright banning, altogether.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and the big bugaboo was you can't just outright ban, but, according, and for the courts it would be, but you can regulate, within reason, but
But you
You'll
get
have to
some
get a
towns,
reading
just
on that.
college towns or parties, and they become liability for kids to come and. But I see Muskegon being
Right.
more of a tourist attraction because most of the
the,
Airbnbs is out by the
the
beach.
big move, and it was an evil move by the Realtor Association of Michigan. They wanted to totally eviscerate a municipality's ability to regulate short-term rentals. And the severity would have been felt because if the legislation would have went through, but we fought back on that, at the municipal level and through the Michigan Municipal League when I was on the board there. The real threat was that it could be then interpretive if we don't have a say-so, even in short-term rentals, then there's not a damn thing you can say about any type of rental or home ownership or anything. And it was nefarious, and I will use those negative and severe terms.
Well, I think, the city of Muskegon has regulated rentals, be it short term or long term, for a long time.
Yeah, decades.
I think this is different in terms of determining how many and where they are. So I think this is kind of a new piece to the puzzle. And I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing necessarily. I just, it's kind of it's almost like a free trade issue.
I'll
think
be
it wouldn't be
interested to
having,
see how the lakeside residents are faring because I know they're probably the ones that's getting majority of the requests for Airbnb out there during the summer. But the
okay. I was just gonna say, I think we wouldn't be having the conversation if there weren't impacts, right? If it was no big deal, we wouldn't be having the conversation. And so the things that are people are concerned about are obviously livability, and I think that it is incumbent on us to focus on quality of life for our residents, even though tourism is a wonderful economic tool, that we have to focus on quality of life and consider that when we do these things, but also that it's a tool for tourism. So it's just a multifaceted issue, and I think we all know that.
As it's been stated, you know, when do you stop being a neighborhood and you become a hotel?
Well, and you know, I think that everybody has a different level of tolerance too for things, and you know, yeah. Okay, is there anything else we need to know on that, or is there any other updates, Mike?
Only other thing I just wanted to mention for any of the new planning commissioners, you may wonder sometimes we review site plans and sometimes we don't. Planning commission, we review any site plan when there's an addition over 10,000 square feet. So if you think like the size of a Dollar General, that's usually about the cutoff. We've had a couple Dollar Generals that are like 10,000, 11,000 square feet. Anything under than that, staff can usually approve. Sometimes really big buildings downtown in our form-based code, if they can meet the ordinance, which is very particular and has a lot of requirements, and when it was written, you know, the commission and the commissioners had a say in it, so you kind of have an expected development pattern, and if you can meet that, staff can approve that without coming to planning commission. But sometimes they need what's called a departure, so that's when you'll see a lot of our downtown buildings come for site plan approval. Just an FYI.
You mentioned a particular business, and this could apply to other ones too, but just food for thought. With our requirements for landscaping, you know, for particular businesses, whether it's a quick shop and go type of place or anything else, it's not that we necessarily have extensive requirements. We do have requirements for landscaping. The problem is that when you go by some of these businesses, we may as well not be requiring it because they're not maintaining them. You know, they're weed beds, they're garbage collectors, and you have some national businesses that just are not, you know, maintaining the property. So if I'll get some examples by photo, but sometimes I'm wondering if that becomes more and more a case where the landscaping becomes more of a problem than a pleasure. You know, maybe grass and trees would suffice. But I've gone by some businesses and what once were, you know, nice plantings look worse than was there before.
Sure.
What's that?
One old business question.
Old business?
Yeah, we talked about
Yep, go ahead.
previously looking at corridors for plans, and I don't know that we ever gave staff an answer. So they were looking at potentially
Oh,
expanding
yeah.
to an additional corridor.
Yeah,
And
please
so I
let
just
us
wanted to know
know.
if we could kind of maybe put that back on the next agenda
Yeah.
and give folks some suggestions so that
We're
we
really
can move
keen
that
on
forward.
Getty Street. We think Getty between Laketon and Sherman, which may be two separate plans because it's quite lengthy. But we see a lot of businesses on there and not a lot of uniformity in design and streetscaping, so that's one we're leaning towards. But we would definitely like to maybe make a list, a priority list.
And yeah, I don't want to get off the subject. I think that's a good idea, but with respect to Laketon to Sherman, that's not all.
I'm sorry, Apple to Sherman.
Oh, okay. But
Apple
not-
to Laketon, actually. I'm sorry. Apple to Laketon would be.
So not Sherman.
No, not
All right, never mind then.
I only bring that up because, I think especially a lot of us are new, and so it seems like we're just coming to meetings to approve or deny things, and really our job is to make sure that the master plan moves forward and that we take action when possible. So I wanted to just kind of make sure that we're every now and then doing anything we can to do that.
And just back to the corridor thing, it might be interesting to go check on the shelf and blow the dust off of the 1990s when you were upstairs running the show.
It never was the case.
But it'd be interesting to see some of the iterations for the Getty Street corridor improvement. And unfortunately, we widened it more than what we needed to, back in the 2000s. But anyway,
It's a lot of our streets are fairly wide and cause some issues now.
Anything else for the good of the order? If not, we stand adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.